Hello and welcome to the Street Crime UK YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Today we look at how Scotland Yard smashed one of the UK's biggest drug smuggling operations. Even as cocaine kingpin Clodjan Kopja was led in handcuffs from the plane bringing him into the UK on a European arrest warrant, police were unsure of his true identity. For 3 years, detectives had tracked his movements and steadily dismantled his Albanian crime syndicate, which had flooded London and the South East with millions of pounds worth of Class A drugs. While detectives arrested Mr. Kopja's couriers and trusted lieutenants and seized huge hauls of cocaine from safe houses, the identity of the boss of one of the biggest ever drugs gangs to target the city had remained elusive. Like Kaiser Soze in the film The Usual Suspects, Mr. Kopja was seen to be a step ahead of his pursuers. Once, as officers raided a safe house in Earl's Court, they caught sight of a figure being driven past in a car, but were unable to apprehend him in time. It was Mr. Kopja. Detective Inspector Nick Blackburn, who investigated the case, told local news Mr. Kopja had no footprint in the UK. He used false documents and multiple IDs, and he had no real previous convictions. It was very difficult for us to work out who this individual actually was. Mr. Kopja's luck finally ran out on the border of Greece and Albania when he was caught using a false passport. He was extradited back to the UK. Mr. Blackburn said, "We only really knew who he was when he was back in the UK, and we had his fingerprints." After a 3-year undercover and surveillance operation by the Met's Organised Crime Command, Mr. Kopja, 30, was finally jailed for 17 years and 4 months. But his case barely merited a mention in the national headlines, submerged as it was in a stream of other prosecutions of Albanian nationals for serious drug trafficking. The scale of his offending highlights the mounting concern among senior officers at Scotland Yard and other UK law enforcement agencies over the threat from organised Albanian gangs. In Mr. Kopja's case, police seized 204 kilos of high-grade cocaine, but believe he may have trafficked as much as 800 kilos, worth an estimated £150 million. In a threat assessment, the National Crime Agency warned about the rise of Albanian criminal gangs in cocaine trafficking. It has been examined in recent court cases which show Albanian nationals are engaged in routine drug trafficking in London. More recently, a 23-year-old from Albania ran a red light on Bishopsgate in London. After he presented police with a poor quality Lithuanian ID, they searched his car and found 13 wraps of cocaine in his gear stick casing. His sat-nav revealed a delivery address in the heart of the city. That month, police also stopped Admir Pulishi, 23, in an Audi A6 in Owlgate with 30 bags of cocaine. The criminal, who was later jailed for more than 2 years, had a fake Greek driving licence and told officers he could not remember where he lived. Mr. Pulishi had 2 phones revealed, a list of 18 postcodes and times for meetings. In March, Florentino Gonzalez was jailed for 24 years after he tried to smuggle 30 kilos of cocaine worth £3.6 million to London in a custom-made cache in a roof of his Bentley Flying Spur. A month earlier, 2 men had acted as controllers for street-level cocaine dealers across the capital were jailed in a case that prompted the City of London police to issue a warning about Albanian crime. Sources in the force tell the routine arrest of couriers caught driving or walking drugs into the square mile. Detective Chief Superintendent Mick Gallagher, the head of the Met's Organised Crime Group, said Balkan crime gangs arose from the turmoil of war and conflict which has engulfed the region in the past. He said while the threat of Albanians is real, there are many more groups vying for control of the cocaine trade. Continuing, in our experience, they are very well organised and like to operate under the radar so they don't bring themselves to attention. There is not a lot of violence associated with their activity, certainly not on the surface. Mr. Blackburn, who investigated Mr. Kopja, said the kingpin kept a low profile, renting an expensive but anonymous modern flat in Wandsworth. In the UK, Mr. Blackburn said the criminals led a mundane, sensible existence. The cash is smuggled to Albania, where they are men of wealth and status. Steve Burnett, Deputy Director for NCA's National Intelligence Hub, said the success of Albanian traffickers is built more on a reputation for reliability than for violence, as popularised in films such as Taken, starring Liam Neeson. Mr. Bennett said they are good business partners rather than being feared business partners. The acumen has been Albanian gangs forge alliances with some unlikely partners in London's criminal underworld. In recent months, detectives have seen Albanian and other Balkan factions travelling to cocaine-source countries in South America to deal directly with the cartels. The Colombians are said to be more reluctant to operate in Europe and want people to come to them. One Albanian source said, Albanian organised crime has built up an extensive network in Europe, especially in Spain, the Netherlands, Italy and Belgium. They saw the opportunity in the UK and only expanded there because of the huge market for cocaine. Most of the couriers are illegal immigrants who come to the UK for a better life and are paid up to €12,000 to be smuggled into the UK. They are in debt to the traffickers and get into drug running. Couriers routinely use false ID documents, particularly from Greece and Italy, to travel freely through Europe. The National Crime Agency now has several officers stationed in Eastern Europe to gather information on the crime networks, but closely knit family ties make the mafia clans hard to penetrate. A regular smuggling route for Albanian gangs is among legitimate cargo being driven into the UK on lorries. In Mr. Kopja's case, Romanian drivers were recruited to drive loads to rendezvous points in Kent, where drugs were transferred to smaller vehicles and then driven to safe houses. Couriers from crime gangs around London and the southeast would then collect the drugs. Although senior officers play down the threat of violence from Albanian crime gangs, others warn of the risks of violence playing out on the streets of London. Scotland Yard's Trident unit, which investigates gangs, said it is seizing more guns than ever in the capital, recovering about 700 live-firing weapons. One officer said, "The weapon is there as a mechanism to protect your Class A trade, and Class A is your lifeblood of gangs and organised criminal networks." The police never recovered the cash from Mr. Kopja's multi-million-pound drug deals. Detectives know all the money went back to Albania, but the trail went cold. So what are your thoughts about Klodjan Kopja and how he ran a multi-million-pound drugs empire and how he's used to send this money back to his home country whilst maintaining a low profile with police, to the point where police, prior to his arrest, did not have a face to put to his now infamous name? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, stay safe.